For many people, the housing conversation is not about bidding wars or even rent controls. It's about just basic access to some kind of home that would keep them off the streets or out of shelters. Steve Lurie is Executive Director of the Canadian Mental Health Association. He's been on this issue for many years, and he joins us now for his take on the party platforms. Welcome back.
Thanks.
You were telling us before we started, this is appearance number 5 for you on this program.
I think so, yes.
Okay, you're almost my co-host.
Oh, okay, anytime.
All right. I want to just, on the supportive housing file, get your sense off the top on, generally speaking, how the current government of Ontario has done in your view.
Well, regrettably, they've presided over a huge growth in supportive housing in terms of the need, in terms of the wait list. So the
so not in terms of actual housing, but over a bulge in the wait list.
Right. And I think that is partially because there wasn't a coordinated plan with the LINs, the municipalities, and the sector. But the wait list has grown from 700 in 2009 to 14,100 today in Toronto alone.
Sorry, say those numbers again. It has grown from
700.
720?
700 in 2009.
Oh, in 2009. 700 to
14,100 today.
My goodness.
And that puts into perspective, the City of Toronto has now declared it would like to develop 18,000 supportive housing units over the next 10 years. And even if those units hit the streets, there'll still be a wait list of about 16,000 at the end of 10 years of development of new housing.
Okay, but I mean, there are wait lists and then there are wait lists, right?
Right.
I mean, some people are on a wait list and they don't even, they've moved to another city or, they may be dead for all we know. How reliably sure are you of that 14,000 number?
I couldn't be more sure. We worked with the Wellesley Institute and the Access Point to publish a report that was released in March that did an analysis of 12,000 people on that wait list. And so, you've got some interesting statistics about, 53% of them are absolutely homeless and the rest are precariously housed. And we were also able to segment it by level of need. And the good news in terms of level of need is most people will be able to manage simply with more housing and flexible supports. There's a bit of a myth that everybody needs high support housing. That's really maybe 10% of the population. But if you can basically provide housing on the ground in Toronto and in the rest of the province, and then flex your case management, your assertive community treatment teams, peer support, provide those services to people, they'll be able to successfully maintain their housing.
Here's what two groups had to say about this. The Ontario Nonprofit Housing Association and the Cooperative Housing Federation of Canada. They came out with an affordable housing plan, and here's what they said we need. We need to create 30,000 new supportive housing units for individuals with mental health and addiction issues and end chronic homelessness. And they call for a $50 million investment over 10 years from both the federal and provincial governments to help make that happen in addition to. How doable is 30,000 new supportive housing units? That sounds like a heck of a lot.
Well, first of all, it's based on the low end of the need assessment. Greg Sutter, who I think you're having on tomorrow from the Wellesley Institute, did a wonderful report on estimating the need for supportive housing in Ontario. And the estimate runs from probably 33,000 people in absolute need to 90,000. So 30,000 is, the low end. But on the other hand, it's a very pragmatic approach because Greg and colleagues, and I was involved in it, had a housing task group that worked and reported to the Mental Health Leadership Council. And that plan is fully costed, and it would average about 3,000 units a year, which is actually very achievable because between 1975 and 1995, Ontario was producing 5,000 units of affordable and special needs housing a year.
But if you do 3,000 a year, so that means a decade to get it all done, given what you said happened to the waiting list from 700 to 14,000 in the past decade, does 30,000 then become a drop in the bucket because the new waiting list is going to be 100,000?
Well, the wait list would probably stabilize at about its current number, but I think you could make the case that 50,000 would be better than 30,000. And I think there are a variety of strategies that could be used. This plan that that OMFA has endorsed and that the NDP have endorsed is based on a fully costed plan with support dollars, rent supplement dollars, and capital dollars.
What's the total?
The total at the end of 10 years would be $722 million, but that includes some of the capital construction. And it works out to about $24,000 a unit and person, which is far less. It costs $100,000 to keep somebody in a hostel for a year. So if you can create housing at $24,000 per person, you're going to do very, very well.
So socially, health-wise, economically, this makes more sense.
Well, and this has been the argument. I mean, you know, you certainly can find, if you look at the Mental Health Commission's study at home chez soi, the high-end hospital users, the original cost per year was $51,000, and then once they got supportive housing and assertive community treatment services to support them in the community, the cost dropped to, I think, $26,000. So for every dollar you spent, you saved $2. But you get good social outcomes even for people who aren't what you call your high-cost system users. And basically, you know, every quarter, the supportive housing wait list in Toronto grows by about 400 people. So, you know, we had 1,600 people added to the wait list last year. We were able to house about 500 of them.
If the economics, if the morality, if the ethics of this is so blindingly compelling, how come it hasn't happened yet?
Well, I think there's been this debate about whose job is it? You know, is it the private sector's job? Is it the public sector's job? Is it a combination? And we've gone back and forth on that. I think there's a role for everybody in this, and certainly when the housing minister, Mr. McKean, and Mayor Tory announced the long-term affordable housing strategy a year and a half ago, they said there was a role for the private sector to play, and there certainly is, but there's also a role for the non-government sector. You know, in Toronto now, there's 31 supportive housing providers. Some of us have been doing this work for 40 years. We know what to do. Groups like Mainstay that actually own and operate 1,000 units. And, you know, we now have in Toronto, you know, 5,000 or so supportive housing units that have been developed over the last 30 years. But you could argue that if we'd have developed 10 or 15,000, we'd be in a much better position.
And let's state the obvious here. If you don't have a home, you're on the streets, you're in hostels, you're bumming off friends and family. I mean, you have the most precarious life imaginable, I suppose, right?
Absolutely. The WHO has coined a phrase saying there's no health without mental health. And in fact, I would argue there's no mental health without housing. I mean, if you don't have a place to live, you're going to have a hard time getting your life together. The other thing is groups like ONFA and the Canadian Housing Renewal Association estimate that for every dollar you spend on housing, there's a multiplier effect to the economy of $1.50. So the question is, why aren't we doing it?
What's the answer?
The answer is that not only have we not answered whose job it is, and it's everybody's job, but there really does need to be coordination between levels of government and the NGO sector and the private sector. And this is eminently doable. In fact, the plan we were talking about earlier, we actually brought in municipal managers, and there is a, without changing the system and restructuring the world, you could basically bring the LHINs, the municipal managers together, along with mental health and addiction providers, and you could develop a plan. And this is all eminently doable. So in some ways, the stars are aligned, because I think every one of the political parties, I mean, the Liberals have committed.
Well, hang on. Before you go there, I got the list of all four major parties here. So lest we cherry pick here, let's just go through the whole thing. The Liberals have committed, in fact, nearly 2,500 new supportive housing units to be created over the next 4 years, should they be reelected. The Progressive Conservatives have talked about $1.9 billion over 10 years for mental health. The New Democrats have talked about $1.4 billion to build 12,000 supportive housing units within their first mandate and build an additional 30,000 new supportive housing units over the ensuing decade. The Greens will talk about investing an additional $200 million over projected increases in the 2018 budget, that's the Liberal budget, for funding shelters, social, co-op, and supportive housing. Now, I know you're a nonpartisan guy and you don't want to endorse anybody, but what do you like from what you hear?
Well, what I like is that all three parties have made a commitment to develop more housing.
Four.
All four, yeah, sorry, Green Party.
Yeah, we include them.
And in fact, they have the boldest financial commitment to mental health, $4.1 billion. So
over 4 years, that's right. Yeah.
And I think there's a real opportunity because the federal money, although it's somewhat back-end loaded, there's going to be billions of dollars available from the federal government. So what this will require is an alignment where the province puts up its share, the municipality, if it isn't putting up its own money, at least coordinates the planning process. And they've got an opportunity. I mean, Mayor Tory has talked about trying to get the Mental Health Act better organized, and I think focusing on how do we reduce homelessness amongst people with mental health and addictions? What's the approval process going to look like through the Homes for Good program, which is a provincially mandated program, but the cities manage it? The LHINs can put in the service dollars, and again, we know what kinds of services work. So in some ways, the stars are really aligned. And I know that the Progressive Conservative Party have had discussions about what's achievable in the first part of their mandate, and so I think they wouldn't be far off the NDP commitment.
Having said that, do I infer from your earlier comments, because it is only the NDP plan that is actually endorsing the Nonprofit Housing Association's goal of 30,000 units. So without being partisan, can you say they are in fact the best plan?
Well, they basically, they and OMFA have picked up the plan that was developed for the Mental Health and Addictions Leadership Council 2 years ago. So, the Liberals have the same plan in Queen's Park. I would hope that after the election, regardless of who forms the government, they say, how do we get moving on this 30,000? Because as I said earlier, the 30,000 is the low end of the need range. Mm-hmm. And without it, you've got a wait list in Toronto here that grows by 400 every month. Every quarter.
Every quarter. How do you, in fact, generate the additional political will that you will need, regardless of who forms government, to make this happen? You've talked about the economics being obvious on this, but what it requires, I guess, is political will. How do you make that happen?
Well, I think that the plan that the Wellesley Institute and others developed should be able to generate the political will, because it basically says, build on what you've done before. Convene a table with the service funder, the LHINs, the municipality, and the provincial government, and where it makes sense, the federal government, and figure it out. We've now got targets. So, the city having declared 18,000 supportive housing units, I mean, that's phenomenal, and it's based on the pressures they have. So the conversation we were having today was, what if we sat down with the city and said, based on your 18,000, what makes sense to you? How would you target the development? Where should it go? The Wellesley Institute has been doing some work on, what neighborhoods are more high stress than others. So I think actually the ingredients are there. All it's really going to take is for the funder, the government, to say, you know what, we're going to make this commitment and then challenge the sector to work with them to deliver it.
We do, in some respects, inevitably focus on the capital city of Ontario on this program because, it is the biggest city in the country. There is the biggest of everything happening here. You want to talk about mental health, numbers of people who are sleeping in the streets and so on. Obviously, there are more here than anywhere else. But we don't want to do that to the exclusion of the rest of the province because there are needs elsewhere as well. For example, outside of Toronto, where are there really big needs in this area?
Well, there are needs throughout the province, and there are particular issues in rural and northern Ontario that have to be taken into account. But for example, the CMHA organization, which exists in over 30 communities across the province, many of my colleagues are operating housing programs, and many are operating really leading-edge housing programs, and they would want to expand, and they've been working collaboratively with municipal managers in the shelter system. One of the barriers province-wide is that in many communities, and just north of here in York Region, there isn't much rental stock. So if there isn't rental stock, then you have to figure out what are you going to do to produce the housing, because you're going to have to probably go to an ownership model with the non-government sector or a public-private partnership, and how do you develop 100 units, 200 units? But there are some very interesting precedents. The town of Lindsay 15 years ago actually gave the CMHA 20 units in their municipal housing structure. So that's the other piece of this. All the municipalities have a hand in the game in terms of their own operated housing. And so what you would look at outside of the city, and again, there's opportunities to do more in Toronto community housing as well, along with the repairs. We've got projects that are helping people stay in the housing that they have in TCHC, because we're providing services to them and they're getting mental health and addiction services that they wouldn't ordinarily get. So a comprehensive strategy province-wide, and I think that was also what was behind the 30,000, that it would be done LHIN by LHIN, or local health integration network by integration network. So you pull the people together who know the local system, they sit down with the municipal manager and the providers and people with lived experience and say, what's going to make sense? And we don't do it all at once, but obviously even with a target of 30,000, there'll be some communities where you'll maybe be able to develop more than 3,000 divided by 14.
Gotcha.
And you just get moving.
That's Steve Lurie, Executive Director of the Canadian Mental Health Association. As always, thanks for your visit here at TVO tonight.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for shining a light on this issue.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.